Hello, everybody. It's Romania Black, and we are on episode 23 of Spy Family. We only have 3 episodes left of this season. Crazy talk, right? Crazy talk. And last episode, we ended with a underground tennis match of all things, and it was surprisingly like the best episode in a long time. I loved episode 22. I really like Fiona in the story. I've talked to people in the comments about her. And I really like Fiona. She is a lot of fun. She's definitely a flawed character, but I like that they play like her inner monologue versus what she's actually saying for humor. I talked to Sarah Linda in the comments for episode 22. I was like, that's one of my favorite things is when she'd give this like hard monologue and then she'd be like, I love him. Like she's just so certain. But you feel bad for her, right? Because it's unrequited, and it's like, I don't think Loid's gonna love you like that, girl. I'm rooting for you to find some love, but I don't think it's gonna be with Loid. But I do have some comments before we start episode 23. These are from episodes 21 and 22 that I wanted to touch on before we dive in, and then obviously I'll have the episode comments from this episode and last one for next week going into that. I can't believe we only have, after this one, 2 episodes left. It's kind of crazy. We've been watching Spy Family for like most of this like summer into fall. It's been like such a trip, right? We watched it all summer and now we watched it all fall. It's crazy, right? Just been a fun show all around. So Christopher Peterson talked about in episodes 21 saying that Yor needs to get her mojo and her badassery back. I agree. I feel for Yor because I feel like she's had such a hurt to her confidence. I want to see our girl Yor like be super confident and badass again, but I don't know how she can show that off now that Fiona's there. Loid's pretty oblivious when it comes to recognizing that Yor is, maybe has superhuman strength and is possibly an assassin. And Yuri overlooks it all because it's his sister and he loves her too. So Loid and Yuri kind of have blinders on. Would Fiona have blinders too? I don't know, right? I don't know. But Christopher Peterson talked about how Loid's a Gary Stew. I was like, ha! He said Mary Stew at first. And I was like, well, the male equivalent of a Mary Stew is a Gary Stew. And kind of, yeah. It's like nothing Loid does is wrong. Like he's perfect at tennis, even though he's just dabbled in it. And he's very smart, super athletic, super nice, just a great person. But the funny thing about usually a Mary Sue or a Gary Stew has like where nothing goes wrong in their world. Everything somehow works itself out. And you could kind of argue that for Loid, I guess. But I think Anya gives him enough gray hairs to keep him from fully getting into that label. But I thought that was really, really funny. But yeah, he does get some help from Yor too. I think that Yor does help Loid to balance some things out, whereas Loid he's been a spy for so long, he's emotionally distanced himself and detached himself. Yor, oddly enough, has that emotional attachment despite being an assassin, so she kind of like balances it out for him. It's really nice. Christopher Peterson also noted with episode 22 that there's this really curious dynamic, and I hadn't thought about it too much until Christopher Peterson pointed it out, but Loid talks to Fiona about how you have to disconnect yourself emotionally. You can't be emotionally involved with anyone for the sake of the mission. You have to keep emotions at bay, and you're just a spy doing your job for the sake of your country. But Yor kind of provides a counter to that because she's doing her job to keep her people of her country safe, but she's very much driven by the emotional attachment she has with her brother and is doing all of these things as an assassin for her brother's sake, for her family's sake. So she's very much driven by emotions. And so I think that's a really cool a contrast there. And it'll be curious if Loid ever figures out that she's an assassin and what she's doing things for, what that's gonna do to affect things if it does. So I thought that was really neat to point out, Christopher. I'm glad that you did that. Alex Cornejo joked, is dodgeball a gateway to the underground tennis world? It's like, yeah. So if we see Billy in 10 years in the underground tennis world, we'll know that dodgeball was just a gateway and that Henry Henderson is maybe running an illegal ring to get athletes into the underground. That was hilarious. KA has been noting they're from Japan and they've been noting different voice actors that play different roles for the characters in the series. And I haven't looked up the character voice actors because I don't want to be spoiled. But Fiona's voice actress is Ochako from My Hero Academia. And I was like, okay, that's a very different character than she's played. She also plays Haruno from Ace of the Diamond, one of the managers, and I'm like, that she's more of a quieter, kind of bubbly character. I'm like, okay, that's different. But then also her voice actress is Gabby. Gabby from Attack on Titan. Fiona's voice actress is Gabby. And Gabby, Ochako, Haruno, and Fiona have the same voice actress. It's like, oh my gosh. Which, if you know nothing about those other three characters, they are either more bubbly, but definitely all three of them are younger characters than Fiona. Fiona's like an adult, and the other three characters that she plays typically are younger characters. And my dog has just knocked over a book, and we're gonna put that back. but she often plays like younger characters, which is kind of curious. So I'm like, huh. So I really like that. I would never have guessed that that was her voice actress, because it's a different character than she's ever played. I'm glad, because as cool as it would be to play a bunch of younger characters when you're an adult, I'm sure it's kind of refreshing to be able to play an adult in a series. So especially one that's as fun as Fiona and kind of goes between like being super bubbly and hyper to being like serious and brooding. So I like that. What a range. What a range. And then Algy Malgum talks about in episode 21, y'all, you can't dissuade me from the Fiona and Yuri crack ship. I'm a multi-shipper. If she ends up with somebody else, fine. But I'm crack shipping this all the way down the river as I can. And Algy Malgum talked about, Yuri and Fiona, they could be enemies to lovers. Two different sides of the country coming together under a common cause. They both, he has disdain for Loid for being with Yor. She has disdain for Yor for being with Loid. They can commiserate together. And then I loved Algy Malgum was like, they could get a cat that knows psychometry and can see into the past, and its name will be Galore. And I was like, oh my God, a dog named Bond and a cat named Galore. That would be too perfect. Also, Fiona and Yuri seem like such cat people. I can see it. I can just see it. Them with a cat in their matching sweaters and turtlenecks. Yeah, I'm all about it. Also, Algy Malgum noted it makes sense that Nightfall is her spy name, because what follows Twilight? Nightfall. And I was like, mic drop. I was like, it all makes sense. It's great. I thought that was wonderful. And then finally, I know this is a long intro, Alexander Q talked about how Fiona, she could end up being her own worst enemy, because she's trying to keep, Loid away from Yor and from liking her, but by pointing all of this stuff out, she may inadvertently lead Yor or Loid to realize their feelings for one another. So there's that. But yeah, I am ready to dive into episode 23 and see what we get. So, all right, let's do this, y'all. We are going to start Spy Family episode 23, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this. I really wanted that ending. I wanted to see Loid get the cakes and take them back to Yor and them. I wanted to see that. How dare you, anime, not show us that, especially with Yor looking so dejected at the end. I wanted to see Loid, giving her the cakes, because bless his heart, Loid has no clue. He has no idea. He has no idea, right? And it's so funny, but it's interesting. I almost debated bringing Whiteboard Kun out. I mean, I may do that by the end of the season. I may do that in episode 25 to just map out where we are at the end of this season. Because, yeah, Loid thinks that this is all just a thing of convenience. And I think Loid understands that Yor wants to be a good wife and mother for the sake of this charade marriage that they've done, because Loid knows that she wants to be in that relationship for her own gain. So he thinks that she's like him, and it's just a matter of convenience, and it's just working out for the both of them, but they're both aware that it's not going to go anywhere. But I think for Yor, she has developed kind of this, and we've talked about it in the comments throughout this season, but she, raised her little brother. She knows what it's like to kind of have a pseudo family, or a family. It is an actual family. The parents aren't involved, but it is a family, like her and her brother Yuri. And so I feel like she very much understands she understands what it's like to have a family and that kind of bond that you have and that love. And she kind of, even though she's the big sister, I feel like she does take on somewhat of a maternal role with Yuri as well. And so, or at least she did when they were kids. And so it's easy to see why she would instantly kind of fall in and being Anya's mom, because she's used to that role. She's used to what it's like to take care of someone that's younger than you and needs more assistance and more, is more dependent. But Loid's not had that experience. Loid's been a spy most of his life, or he's been trained to become a spy, and his version of family it's not really a family. I feel like the closest thing he has to a family is Herder. I feel like Sylvia is the closest thing he has to a family. And she's not really, she's been a mother herself, but I don't know if she's maternal with Loid. I don't really think that that's that. They're more on like a mutual equal term, but she definitely has more of a mentor role with him. And that's probably the closest thing to family he's ever experienced. So for Loid, it's easy for him, or has been easy for him, to keep up the guise of this is just convenience. It's just for the mission, no other reason, it's fine, and not, catch feels and develop any feelings, because he doesn't view it as even a possibility, right? Whereas she's like, yeah, I'm just kind of, doing this role because it's convenient for me, but that's not going to stop me from developing feelings. And it's like, ah! And what makes me really like Yor and Loid as a couple, and what makes me want to ship them, is that Yor does not worship Loid. She does not worship the ground that he walks on. She doesn't think he's the best thing since sliced bread. I feel like she likes Loid. She thinks he's a nice guy, but she doesn't idolize him like Fiona idolizes him. That's the big thing. In this episode, Fiona, she contemplates like letting the match go on and maybe keep tying it so she can keep being with him. And it's like, girl, you have a mission. And she almost lets those feelings compromise that. Whereas Yor's, the only reason she wanted to battle Fiona in the tennis match to begin with was she wanted to prove to Loid that she's a good mom and a good wife, and that she's pulling her weight. She's like, hey, I know you're pulling your weight. I am too, right? Don't think that I'm not doing my job. But she doesn't have like an obsession with Loid, or at the moment, romantic feelings towards him. And that's kind of why I like shipping them, because it's not unrequited. It's not really one-sided. Loid and Yor kind of are both in the same boat in terms of how they feel about each other right now. And I feel like as their relationship develops and matures and kind of starts to blossom, maybe, that those romantic feelings will maybe come in mutually, instead of Fiona, who's like head over heels, like already planned the wedding, like everything. And Loid is oblivious. I like that in this episode we get some of Loid's mindset, and Loid has no clue. Loid thinks that she's just getting her head on for the mission. It's like, oh my God, Loid, no, you have no idea. And at the very end of the episode, when he sees the portrait of the colonel who was able to create a at least temporary layer of peace between the two countries, he was able to have that wife and daughter. And Loid's like, that'd be awfully nice. It's like, yeah, it would. So it's the question of, it's interesting at this point in the series. It's so funny because I thought by the end of the series, we would have Loid and Yor kind of realizing maybe they were feeling things for each other, and then questioning, how does this impact the mission? What do we do with this? But we're not there yet. No. In traditional shonen fashion, the male character has no idea if anybody has any romantic feelings towards them. They are oblivious. It's great. Except I like that Yor is not like head over heels trying to like worship the ground that Loid walks on. She just wants to prove that she is just as capable of doing her end of the bargain as he is. And girl, I'm amazed that Fiona didn't comment on her superhuman strength. But maybe Fiona believes that Loid chose her because of these attributes. And she's like, well, I'm better than her. And then realizes maybe she's not. What a weird twist, right? What a crazy twist. So yeah, going through this episode, the animation on all of this was absolutely phenomenal. I love the animation of this tennis match between the two. And gonna let y'all know, I know everybody in the comments is probably gonna say the same thing. Look, Fiona looked great in the blonde hair and the wig. We're not going to dispute that at all. I like that we had like a little bit of Kim's chest showing there, a little bit of the pec showing, but Loid in them damn shorts. Loid in them damn shorts and that white t-shirt, that white polo. It's over, right? It's over. And that's the thing too, is that Yor is not like, Yor doesn't like see Loid in the outfit and be like swooning over him. She's just like, oh, hey, Loid, like, you know, and that's kind of what Loid needs. I feel like Loid would not, if Loid knew how Fiona actually felt about him, he would run for the hills. He would not be able to handle it. Loid is just his personality. When he had that meeting with Frankie episodes ago and was telling Frankie like all the algorithms and everything with the relationships, Loid is perfection in every aspect except how to handle love. That's like his one weakness. He has no clue what to do. And I feel like if he knew how Fiona really felt about him, he would freak out. He'd be like, I don't know what to do with that. Nope. And like run for the hills. But the fact that Yor doesn't make it a big deal and she doesn't like, you know, make him feel uncomfortable, I feel like Loid is like, he feels comfy around that. He doesn't feel like he's, you know, like it's something he can't handle. And then he's like, they're moving the net up and down. So yeah, they try out all the stops in this, but damn, Loid's legs. All right. That one shot where he had his like butt was doing like a lunge pose. Mangaka, you just keep doing what you gotta do. But yeah, it was great. And I like they just pulled out all the stops. They made the net go up and down. I am glad that they were just rubber bullets. As much as a rubber bullet would hurt, I am glad that was what it was. I thought for a second it was a tranquilizer. They were going to tranquilize them. And I was like, can they do that? Or if it was something worse. But luckily it was not. And of course, Loid comes prepared. He had a bulletproof vest. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he have a bulletproof vest, right? It was great. But they try wind. They try to make the ball smelly. I like that Carol throughout this. Carol was like, stop. She was like, you're making the ball smell. And they're using everything we're giving to them to their advantage. But yeah, at this point, they're like two spies that have gotten their groove back, right? And here's the thing. This is the thing that's so kind of sad about it, is that Loid, he compliments Fiona. He's like, your observation skills, your judgment, your control, they're all perfect. Look, we're doing a great job for the mission. He has no clue that she is like head over heels for him. And he wouldn't know what to do with it. I feel like he'd be like, the mission? We're spies? It's not gonna work. Yeah, I feel like that she would break his... I feel like Loid would break her heart if he knew how she really felt, because he wouldn't be able to return the love to the extent that she has, which is why Yuri is perfect for her, because Yuri is the equal amounts of obsessive and like over the top with his affections for Yuri would be able to give those affections back to Fiona. I fully believe so. I feel like Fiona, I can kind of relate to Fiona in the fact that she's one of those people that gives like 120% when she's like head over heels for something. She's like, I am down 1,000 times over. And she devotes all of her heart into something, right? It kind of relates. She's given so much of herself for the mission because she's been inspired by Twilight. And I feel like Yuri is the same way. He devotes all of himself to the mission because he's just as dedicated. And I feel like Yuri and Fiona are such emotional characters that they would gel in the oddest of ways. Loid, bless his heart, he would not be able to, I think, to reciprocate her feelings. Because Loid is a baka and Yor is a baka when it comes to emotions. And I feel like they're perfect for each other for that reason. But Loid wouldn't be able to give her the amount of devotion back to her that she's giving to him. And she needs to find somebody that will be able to give that devotion back. Could you imagine, I'm just going on my tangent for a second, could you imagine like the amount, like Yuri would give her like 1,000 roses and would like bask her in rose petals and like get her all this expensive things and like pour her wine, have candlelit dinner. He'd be so freaking romantic. Loid would be like, do you want to like go get some ice cream or like walk? I feel like Loid would not know romantically what to do with her. He'd just be like, but Yuri would be a romantic. He'd pull out all the stops. Yor doesn't want much. So that fits Loid pretty well. And she says, I want to continue this tournament forever. And she like thinks about forcing a tiebreaker. At that point, I was like, no. Like you almost ruined this by letting your emotions get in the way. And it was almost a really bad deal. And I like that throughout this whole thing, Loid, he doesn't like Fiona that way. He just views her as a comrade. He has friend-zoned her hard, but he sees that they're about to shoot her in the moment and he goes to save her. right? I love that the crowd interprets it as him pouncing on her. And she, at the moment, she's just like, oh, really? We're going to do this now? And the audience, like, they're doing this now? And Loid's like, I'm saving you from getting hit with a bullet, but okay. Like, just, it's great. And of course it matches the court so that nobody will see it. And they even had, like, the guys, the ball boys had the wristlets, like the Spider-Man wristlets shooting the bullets too. What the heck? What the heck? It's crazy talk, right? Absolutely crazy. But she's just like, wow, you're impressive as ever. And so I just love that this whole time, Loid has no clue. He has no clue how she really feels. And she hides it so well. And inside she's like, I love him. But again, that's what I think makes Yor so good, because Yor is not blinded by love or anything. She views Loid as a person, and those feelings just haven't caught on yet. So yeah, they basically do everything to the point where Kim gets hit with the bullet, and of course he can't admit it because he doesn't want to admit that there's snipers there. And man, Loid just coming up with like the demonic shonen. Like, I love that his has been the red glow of the tennis court, the tennis racket, and then when we see Fiona later against Yor, it's like bright blue, and yours is yellow. So it's like your three primary colors. You have Loid, Yor, and Fiona as your primaries. Of course we do. But damn, Loid just spiking that ball. And then that final hit that he does that goes between his legs, like the animation of it was just absolutely perfect. Mm-hmm. And then okay, Kim, the son, goes up to them and he's like, I'm sorry, like, just, you really showed us up, and I've never been this upset. And Loid offers like the mentor, like the opponent's praise after the victory. He's like, well, if you just keep it up, you'll be a good player someday. And he's like, oh, thanks. And I love that Fiona's like, we not only won the game, but Loid managed to reform our opponent. Like, you know, here's the thing though, and I joked about in the reaction, but Carol is having none of it. I love that Fiona is off in the corner, like, talking about how Loid has reformed the opponent and saying, like, I love him. Says impressive as ever, Twilight. I love you. And Kim's just like, I love you, man. And Carol's like, what is the big deal? I joked that Carol's not here for the guys. No, she's not impressed by Loid at all. Now, if it had been Nightfall do it, maybe she would have been. She's like, what a baka. And I love that the dad is like, we lost this match, but we gained something. And I loved when the coworker was like, when he's talking about how much his son's grown, the coworker's like, it's not sunk in yet how much you've lost, has it? He lost like millions. Right, millions. But I was so afraid with the painting that they went through all this trouble and they weren't going to get the image. I was like, are you kidding me? Are they not going to get the picture after all this time? Now, one thing is that at one point, Loid, like, talks to her, like, his lips move, so he's talking to her, but he's talking about switching out the paintings and getting them, but it almost seems like the guys that are in the same room don't hear them talking. So is that another misdirect? I'm guessing so. Or they just conversed with each other in whispers and it wasn't noticed. I guess so. Also, their jackets say "wise" on them in big letters. Isn't this supposed to be an underground secret organization? And you have it right there, like the name of the organ. It'd be like putting like British Secret Service right there on the logo of your jacket. What? It'd be like putting FBI on there and just hoping they don't notice. Oh my gosh. So I do like that they managed to... I was fooled. I thought it was the guys coming to get the painting. One of them were Loid, and they snuck out with the painting while she was there. But actually, he took the place of the curator, of the associate. Clever girl! And she manages to put the bag over there so that she can get the painting swapped. All right. And yeah, and so now it makes sense when Loid went and asked the Campbell guy when they were coming. The Campbell guy assumed, oh, well, he's just asking about them. There's nothing suspicious about that. And that enabled him to find out so they could switch the information. Look at that. Look at that. That all worked out really, really well. And I love that the exhaustion hits Loid all at once. And he's like, I would have maybe taken the mask off once I got in the car. That would have been good. But they managed to find the lady in the sun picture, and it had the little code in the end. Look at that. Great job. And he's like, I can't have our neighbors. So yeah, she's gonna, and again, she's about to like put the mission in jeopardy because of her love. She wants to, and you can't blame her. She wants to stay with him as long as possible. And Loid's like, no, you need to drop me off a little bit before, because you can get, adultery apparently in this world. If they even suspect you adultery, the Secret Service can get called on you, which is pretty bad. So he's like, no, we need to keep my relationship going. He's like, I'm a husband and a father. I can't be seen with another woman this close to home. So he's like, no. They just happened to drop him off right at the spot. Right at the spot where they were playing tennis. It just hit me too that Loid was wearing he was wearing a mask on top of a mask. He had the mask on top of, he had the wig and stuff for Twain Phony. Oh my God, Twain, like Mark Twain. He had him like there, or Twilight. Oh, Nephalia and Twilight, but then her name was a G, so But yeah, Twain for Twilight. But he had the wig on and then the mask over the wig. So I get why he took the one mask off. But he's like, plenty of people get reported to the secret police over adultery. And she's like, and all Fiona's like, wasn't I useful for our mission? But it's like, yeah, you were, girl. She's like, I did my best for you. And I'm like, he high-fived you. Yes, you were useful. But like, that's not going to convince him. And he's, looking out the window. She's like, I should be your partner. It's like, well, unfortunately, and I've been where Fiona's been, but unfortunately you don't get to decide that. That's the part that sucks. You can love someone to the ends of the earth, but if they don't love you back, it's not going to work. And that's the part that sucks, because I've been there. I've like had affections for a few guys that just wasn't it. Didn't work out. Nothing you can do about it. All you can do is move on, and it sucks, and it's heartbreaking. And so I feel for Fiona. I really do. But I'm like, she keeps trying. I'm like, she tries to push that envelope. And it's like, if he doesn't feel that way for you, it's just going to end up in heartbreak, whether you like it or not. And so, and then she chooses to challenge right? And I like that Loid's like, what did I do to deserve this? I like that Loid's like, I'm just trying to do my mission. What? And then, of course, they each have their own fantasies of what's going to happen. Fiona believes that if she beats Yor in a tennis match, that Loid will eventually let go of Yor and go be with her. And for Yor, she believes that if she loses the tennis match, then Loid is going to think that Fiona would be a better wife for him. But she doesn't know about the whole spy thing. She doesn't know that Fiona would be taking her place out of convenience either, or seemingly out of convenience. And I love that Anya is just like, Anya's team Loid Yor all the way. And she's like, Anya's an expert at home runs, which is not tennis. It's baseball. I just love how Anya is so confident. She's so sure that she's got it, and she just misses the mark a little bit. It's great. It's absolutely great. But yeah, she challenges her to the tennis match, and Loid's like, wow, we got far in today's competition thanks to you. And there's a part of me there is a part of me that gets a little frustrated, because we, the audience, by this point, know that Loid is definitely putting on an act for Yor and them, right? And Fiona is aware of that. Yor believes, though, that he does think that it was because of her help that he got better. And maybe it is, but there is a question. I do think that as far as we are now, Loid still believes that there are no feelings, no extra emotions between him, Yor, Fiona. It's strictly business. That's all this is. And Fiona, it's anything but business. Fiona, it's so personal, it's to the point where it's a problem. And with Yor, it is business, but Yor is definitely taking it personal, her role in this relationship. And I think she's taking it much more personal than Loid is. And so when Loid tells her, oh, hey, it was because of you. Is he telling the truth? Is he not? But Yor's thinking he's telling the truth. So it's almost like she is out of the loop a hair, right? And it's like, I almost, I wish that Loid and Yor could be honest with one another. I wish that they could tell that they knew each other and what they were in this operation. Because I think that's the thing. That's the thing. If Fiona and Loid were in this operation, in Operation Strix, even though they were acting like a fake couple and it was for the mission, I feel like Fiona would try to act and make it personal because she's so head over heels for him. But with Yor and Loid, I feel like even if each other knew that they were a spy and an assassin, they would still go through with the mission for the sake of the world peace aspect and for Anya. But I don't know necessarily if Yor would become like Fiona. So that's rather interesting to think about. Like, I almost wish they could be honest with each other and be like, yeah, I'm an assassin, you're a spy. We're still in this relationship for the sake of our countries. Let's do it. I wish they could be honest, but because I think that part of it wouldn't change the relationship angle. I think it'd be the same either way. The question is going to be if they ended up developing feelings towards one another. That's the question. But I think that I wish they could tell each other. It's so frustrating. But yeah, she's like, I'm going to crush you and take place in the household. And Anya's like, please. She's like, and I love that Anya, she thinks back to what Becky said when Becky was talking about the cat fight in one of the episodes of Berlin in Love. And she's like, now I understand how my friend felt. This is the exact same scenario. And it's like, oh my gosh. It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. And then she's like, let's do this. Let's have the fight. And I love that Loid is just sitting there like, why are we doing this? Like, what is the point? And Anya's like, okay, like, this has got to go well. Lloyd's like, I'm around too many ladies. And here's the thing. She didn't hold back. And the ball crumbled into pieces. The racket strings cut up the ball. And it crumbled to pieces. And I love that Yor's like, this has happened so many times. Like, oh my God. Like, and Fiona and them were like, huh? What? And Lloyd's like, this is why we didn't. I love that Loid treats it normally. Lloyd's like, this is why I didn't want you to fight her. I'm like, Loid, she just crushed a tennis ball with her racket alone. She is not a normal citizen. But Loid doesn't view her any other way. It's crazy. He's not deterred by that. It's why they're meant to be. They just don't know it yet. And then there's like this Dragon Ball Z style of like the ball coming towards her, breaking up the ground. And again, we talked about this with Anya. Is it all in Anya's head how strong Yor actually is? Well, she did wreck the tennis ball in real life. But is this all in Fiona's head? How strong she actually is? And then she ends up, the racket gets broke by the tennis ball. I just love how hard she tries. It's great. And then she has to concede defeat. And Lloyd's like, wow, that was something. I'm like, I'm just waiting for the day he finds out she's an assassin. And he's like, huh, wouldn't have guessed it. Just waiting for it. I'm just waiting for it. I'm honestly waiting for the moment. That everyone figures out everything about each other. I'm waiting for the moment where Loid figures out she's an assassin, she figures out Lloyd's a spy, and they both figure out Anya can tell the future. Or is telepathic, not see the future. And then Anya will tell them about Bond, and they'll be like, oh my God. So I'm waiting for that moment. I feel like, and I don't want any manga spoilers or anything like that, but I feel in my mind, in my heart, it would be the climax of the series, would be like, as we go into act 3 of this series, they all find out what each other can do and they all band together to use their abilities. That's what I would imagine. I want this series to end with them all being a family, knowing about each other's skill sets and being like, kind of like the Addams family. We're just like, we all know we're kooky and weird and we've got these crazy abilities and stuff, but we all work together as a family. I'm just waiting for that. Kind of like the actual, like the spy family movies from like the 90s where they're all spies and they know it. Yeah. And Lloyd's like, that's why I said don't. She's really strong. I'm like, Loid, honey. And poor Fiona, I do feel bad as she's like driving away. And she has the crying face. I do feel bad for her saying she won't give up. And then we see her like battling out in the mountains. But Loid is only worried about the fact that he thinks Fiona might have tipped off Yor to the fact that something's up with them, which is not the case at all. Yor's not even thinking about that. And he says, then again, this is just a marriage of convenience, so it doesn't matter. So it's like, okay, Loid is, starting to question, like, oh, it's just a marriage of convenience. It doesn't matter, but I really don't want Yor to know that me and Fiona we're working together for a spy mission. It's like, And then she says, Loid, I won. And he's like, congratulations. And she says, I won. And he's like, yes, you sure did. These two Bakas. And she's just like, oh. Like, she wanted to prove that she's like, I won, so you're going to keep me around, right? And he has no clue what's going on, so he's like, And I love that just, like, everything goes to blue for him, and he's just like, I'm so tired. He's like, why me? And Anya's like, you got it rough. Mm-hmm. So then we find out, oh my God, I'm so happy that Sylvia kept the rings. She kept the rings because they ended up, since they couldn't get the painting, Fiona took that gaudy pot and the rings. She said they're tasteless, but she's like, we can give them to Herder. Herder kept them. She kept the rings. I was like, yeah, girl, that's right. And so she's up in the mountains working on her swing, and Loid's like, oh, really? And then she's like, well, the code was easy to crack. As we come to find out, what was supposed to be this document between these two nations was actually something a lot simpler. A lot simpler, but a lot more interesting, I think, in the overall grand scheme of this. Because it was a diary that he had, and he talked about going to the theater in secret, and his wife didn't like that. So he kept photos of... Now, keeping photos of all of the young actresses... Yeah, the whole thing where he's like, photographs of young actresses, like, and they all look the same. They all have like dark hair, the same face. They all kind of look similar to what I imagine his wife looked like when she was younger. But yeah, and then Loid's like, wait, what? What do we do? And he talks about his secret passion was the theater. And that he went to all these different plays and took pictures of all the actresses. And that was kind of like his fetish, his thing. And Loid's like, wait, what? And so he's like, I became obsessed and my wife beat me to a pulp about it. And her thing is not even that he saw all these young actresses and took pictures. She's like, how much money have you spent on this? Why have you been spending your life savings on the theater? And he's like, I'm just being charitable. And he's like, I even invited my wife to a show, but she just didn't understand. And what's funny is the way that he's like this is kind of the same way that Loid does it when he's outspoken. He's like, it's kind of the same thing. So the question is, Loid has to develop this secret hobby that he keeps from his family, right? Like the theater. Except for Loid, it's being a spy, right? But I liked that she didn't understand the theater, so she told me to throw away the photos, but he's like, I couldn't let go of the rare ones. So I've kept my visits to the theater a secret. And I buried everything, including the photos that could reignite conflict in the depository. And I love how annoyed Loid looks. He's like, I had to spend all day yesterday playing a tennis game in the underworlds of society here in Austinia because a guy had a bunch of pictures of actresses he was keeping from his wife. What? I will never get over how absolutely annoyed Loid looks. He just looks like he could not care less. He's like, so reigniting the flames of war did not mean between the war and East. She's like, no, they were between a husband and wife. And that Loid's like, why is this top secret? What was all my hard work for? And the one guy there is like, well, right before the war ended, the diplomatic cops from the West arrived and Colonel Zacharias invited them out to the theater, but told them to keep it a secret from his wife. And that's how the rumors spread. So yeah, that's where this all originated from. And so Loid's like, well, could there be a code between the journal and these photos? And Sylvia's like, no, there's not. She's like, there was nothing that could reignite the war. And that's more than enough. She's like, don't try looking for something that doesn't exist. Also be happy that this wasn't something so serious as reigniting a war between two countries. It was just between a husband and a wife. She's like, and she's been a mother before, probably been a wife before. She knows exactly what that's like. It's like, And so, yeah, and then Loid's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's true. He's like, as much of a pain as these last 2 episodes were for him, he's like, it's glad that it ended in something that wasn't an actual conflict. Everything is fine. All right, fair enough. I love that. And then he sees the photo of, and the poor daughter has her dad's nose. I feel for her. And he's like, my beloved wife and daughter. And then the one guy there says, after all was said and done, the colonel remained a devoted family man. He took his secret to the grave to protect his family. And like Sylvia's like, well, he would have tossed the photos if he really loved the family. It's creepy. And the guy's like, you don't get it. They're rare. I'm like, oh, I feel like it's the dad that has like the pinup girl calendar in his shop, and the wife's like, why do you have this? And he's like, you don't get it. And it's like, you know. But what I like about this is that it's showing Loid that as a spy, it could still be done. So, because he says it must be difficult to maintain a happy family. So it's just showing Loid like, hey, this is possible. You could be a family man even if you're a spy. You could maybe do both. Colonel Zacharias, who's like the hero of the war before, could do it. So why not you? And then he stops there at the cake shop and says, can I get 2 each of the apple tarts and caramel nut cakes? And then he's just looking like he didn't have to do that, but he did it for them. Right? Which is probably a good thing. And I wanted to see him give the cakes because we see she looks so sad. Like her hair's down and she's just holding the pillow. Like she looks so downtrodden. I'm like, no, I want her to feel okay. And I want her to know that she is doing a good job. That Loid does think she's a good wife. That he's not going to replace her. So I feel really bad for Yor because I feel like Yor possibly feels guilty at this point because she's questioning not only is she doing a good job as a mother and wife, and she's not sure, but also she's come to the realization that this is all a sham. What if Loid does find a woman that he likes and she's in the way of him being happy? And I'm like, girl, you have no idea. So, I really wanted to see him give the cakes to them, but we don't get that. Instead, although seeing Fiona train in the mountains with the bears and the deer and them are like, we don't want to see, that was pretty funny in itself. But we have 2 episodes left, if you can believe it. 2. How about that? So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen in those episodes. But I'm going to wait at least until we get some more comments from episodes 22 and 23 before I watch episode 24. So in the meantime, I hope you all enjoyed this reaction and discussion. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yes, I will be back very soon with episode 24 of Spy Family. Bye.